Hello, and welcome back to Witch on the Holy Night. My name is Maybe Dennis, and last time we finished the last part of the game, the digital game. We did the extra chapter, and we did all of the endings, and we got a little fan service as well. But now we're done with the game, and all that's left is to read the Honey Adventure in the Magician's Basic Tune, which is the art book, or that little extra thing that came with the limited edition one. But although it's called the Honey Adventure, it's different from the Honey Adventure in the actual base game. It has some visuals that I'll try to post, but it's a completely different story with some new characters as well. Here we have a Yoshitsune Mino and a Ichigo Zuka. But before we head into this, I do want to say that I decided to do a speed paint. Not exactly the best drawer, but I did want to try to get better at drawing, so it took me a while to do this. And I was trying to draw like that one scene in the beginning of the game where Aoko is looking over like the hill at the city. I tried to draw something similar to that, but like the ending version. But hopefully it turns out well. If you have any tips, please provide me some. Not very good at drawing too well, but I hope that at the very least it'll serve as some background stuff for this video. Unfortunately, I won't be able to post all of the text because that would be too much, so you'll just have to hear my voice. And I hope that... I hope I don't mispronounce anything. Anyways, here we go. The Honey Adventure. I think there are 4 chapters. It's about 30 pages. But we'll start with chapter 1. The gray doldrum of winter had faded away, giving way to a bright and airy spring. March had arrived for the first time since Sojiro came to town. Oh wait, is this going to be the story about that summer? Because they kept mentioning like, oh, something happened during the summer. But actually, no, this is in March. Never mind. Seeing the blue skies overhead, he decided to take a stroll. Eventually, he came across a familiar-looking coffee shop. It was in a rented space on the bottom floor of a larger building. He once took shelter here from the rain, back in his early days in town. To anyone else, it would have felt like destiny to see it again, but to Sojiro, it was just a convenient place to have lunch. The interior was decorated with red carpet, white walls, and white cabinets. Very French. Though he hadn't known enough to realize that the first time he came here. It was rather like the Kuonji estate, with few minor differences. Feeling a bit out of place, Sojiro took the same seat that he did before. Is that Sojiro? As soon as he sat into his seat, a cheerful voice called out to him from the counter. He looked over to see the more laid back of the 2 beautiful church sisters, Ritsuka Suse, as bright and friendly as ever. Oh, okay. Never thought I'd see you here. What are you up to? Your job? Volunteering? Doing some unpaid labor, maybe? Well, whatever it is, it's great to see you. Take a look at the menu and pick whatever you'd like. On the house! Ritsuka wore an apron printed with the shop's name. Her expression was practically bursting with joy. This would be the first place where he could consider himself a regular. Unlike other teens his age, he wasn't interested in playing adults. He liked that Ritsuka would often treat him to something if she was on her shift. In other words, they got him with free drinks. The coffee shop was called Janice. To Sojiro, the name was hard to pronounce and even harder to remember. He thought it must have meant something to the owner, however, and one day he thought he would ask about it. Today, though, he was here in his favorite seat again, determined to finish his math assignment before his part-time job started in half an hour. Oh hey, aren't you that kid from the fish market? Sojiro found a man at the table nearby with a book in his hands. He looked to be in his early 20s, and he had a carefree look of a college student, enjoying what time he had before entering the professional world. His short, cut hair seemed haphazard, but he was in fact carefully teased to look flattering from every angle. Huh, never heard it phrased that way. Slender and a head taller than Sojiro, he had a leather jacket? Not a leather, but letter jacket slung over his shoulders, and slim denim jeans that hugged his legs. The man was the very picture of a model, the type that would make any outfit look good. Hello, who are you? Sojiro asked. Come on, man, you gave me a freebie at Uotatsu yesterday. Oh, wait, you're the one who buys loach and eels, Sojiro said. Huh, I don't remember ever learning your name. Guess I forgot to introduce myself. Well, you can call me Ichigo Zuka. Nice to meet you. With a jovial grin, Ichigo Zuka sat in the seat opposite Sojiro. While Sojiro rarely had his guard up unless someone was an obvious threat, This guy seems so innocently friendly that even a lone wolf like Alice Kuonji might have allowed him to share a table with her. Hitting the books today? Man, it's so inspiring to have bright kids like you out there. You're very bright yourself, especially his especially his teeth, Sojiro thought as he stabbed the fork into his shortcake. He spent the rest of the time before his shift chatting with Ichigo Zuka. How could he resist the topic of seasonal cuisine? Eventually, Ichigo Zuka said, "Whoops, it's getting late. Sorry for taking up your time. Let me at least treat you for your trouble." And he took both their bills to pay before he left. Not long after, the clang of a bell rang inside the coffee shop. Distracted by the sound, Sojiro stopped putting books in his bag and looked up at the entrance. Wait, what? A dark figure stood in the doorway, shrouded a gloomy shadow. Sojiro was at a loss for words, his mind's bending at the strange alignment of the stars? Okay. Maybe this is the other guy. The something Mino? Yoshitsune Mino, maybe. The man stood as straight and rigid as a statue. At over 6 feet tall, he was clad in white and wore some kind of helmet. A huge white cloak seemed like a swan's wing wrapped around his body to protect him from the elements. Excuse me, might I find Sojiro Shizuki from Misaki High School here? The fearsome figure in white spoke to the waitress in a cold, dignified voice. Frightened, the waitress responded with only a nod and a glance towards Sojiro's seat. He thanked her and ordered something before following her gaze and turning to address the one he came for. Greetings, I am Yoshitsune Mino. Yep, it's him. Until a few days ago, I was your upperclassman. There is nothing to fear. While his behavior and clothing were unusual, his polite greeting seemed sincere. Under the encouragement and guidance of my predecessors, I have successfully become a graduate of Misaki High School. You and I never crossed paths, but I was on the cheer squad. Oh, wait! Oh, Mino was mentioned. Mino was mentioned in the side story where Aozaki was trying to raid the Hikari no Homono no Hikari, the scam blanket store. She was like, "Oh man, we gotta raid this building. Call Mino and his cheering squad." Oh, I completely forgot. So he was also on the student council. It had only been 3 months since Sojiro transferred in, but Cheer Squad rung a bell. The captain of the squad had a sense of notoriety about him. Even the student council president might cower like a frightened cat in his presence. I have something to tell you. May I have a moment of your time? Blinking in surprise at Yoshitsune's old-fashioned etiquette, Sojiro assented. With a bow, the squad captain oddly opted to take the seat next to Sojiro instead of across the table. You don't have to sit next to me. Yes, but this way we'll have less to worry about. After a while, the waitress brought out 2 parfaits topped with cream. She made a face at the unusual sight of 2 boys sitting together side by side on the sofa. That was when Sojiro realized with a shudder that this position made it difficult for him to run. My treat. I ordered the most expensive thing on the menu. Thanks. Guess I'll dig in. Sojiro was already topped off after hanging out with Ichigo Zuka, but with this intimidating guy sitting so close to him, it was hard to refuse. So he rolled the whipped cream around his mouth as if chewing it. Yoshitsune, however, did not touch his parfait. Instead, he cleared his throat forcefully and began to speak. Let me ask you a question. Are you the sort of animal that looks at your housemates as members of the opposite sex? What? His housemates treated him like their guard dog, but Sojiro never imagined someone that he had just met would accuse him of being an animal. Of course, he was accepting of everything people fed him, much like a dog would. Even now. Perhaps you should fix that. I'm not sure what you mean. Isn't it natural to acknowledge that they are female since they are? That doesn't make me an animal, Sojiro pleaded silently as he looked at his companion. I see. You're really something. Yoshitsune seemed to have expected that answer. The white-cloaked boy cleared his throat again and continued. Allow me to rephrase. Are you dating Aoko Aozaki? Sojiro nearly choked on his whipped cream. He took a quick sip of water before responding. Sorry, let me adjust my earlier statement. There are some people I don't perceive as the opposite sex at all. I see. That makes this easier. I was worried that it was about to get complicated. The cheer captain bowed his head gravely before fixing his gaze on Sojiro. Shizuki, I require your aid. I am going to ask Aoko Aozaki out. Our swim team captain has informed me that your assistance would solidify my chances. Sojiro spat his water, sending a fine mist onto the chair opposite. Yoshitsune Mino was truly the paragon that the rest of Misaki High School made him out to be. He was a head taller than the average teenage boy, though he didn't use his size for intimidation. Instead, he had the impeccable posture of a prim and proper type. He had sharp features and pale lips. His gaze was steady, but with a hint of melancholy. Perhaps due to his physique, his voice was firm when he spoke. He was a classic heartthrob, like he was practically born to be the captain of a cheer team. Under his white cape, he wore all black, his team's trademark. Though he had already acquired all required credits and was no longer required to attend class, Yoshitsune explained that he had to stay honest and upright for his team until graduation in April. The hat on his head was proof of his position as captain, and the white cape apparently kept him focused on his demeanor. Next page. If Sojiro was behind the times after living in the countryside, and Yoshitsune was from a different era altogether. And of all things, you're interested in Aozaki? Harsh, but yes. Despite my many shortcomings, I've admired her beauty and elegance for the better part of 2 years. Their standards were like night and day. So does that mean you've liked her since her first year? Indeed I have. We first met when I had only just become captain. Have you heard what happened to her many suitors? Sojiro only knew how it turned out. The student council vice president, Tobimaru Tsukiji, had said that several boys fought over the right to confess their feelings to Aoko, and the winners of this fierce conflict eventually managed to ask her out, only to be turned down in the end. So, you took part in all that? No. I was too late to join in. Before I knew what was happening, the previous president had taken a leave of absence, and both Aozaki and I grew very busy. There was no time for love. I decided, and 2 years passed with little more than vague tension. I made no move, yet could not let go. He cast his eyes downward in anguish, his forlorn features beautiful as if carved by the careful hands of an artist. The waitress was watching from afar, her expression stiff. Sojiro finally realized that she wasn't afraid. She was trying to keep herself from swooning. Oh my god, the yaoi! Okay, I see what's going on, but why didn't you just go for it? I fell prey to my own cowardice. I have led my team in support of many losing games, yet in matters of the heart, I hesitate. I hope that at least we could stay friends. But now you're gonna give it a try? I have been unfortunately driven to this choice. After the graduation ceremony, I will leave this town. It cannot wait any longer. Now everything made sense. After graduation, Yoshitsune Minu would go to the city to work or study. He had only a few days left to let Aoko know. However, Sojiro wasn't sure how he could help. Yoshitsune had asked for his assistance, but Sojiro would be the one that needed help in this case. Hey, why not just be thankful for the memories that you had together? Knowing Aozaki, there's a high chance that it'll just all... he mimed like something like an explosion, as if to say everything would fall to pieces. Yoshitsune, however, seemed unperturbed by this. I'm prepared to fall, but if I do not even take the opportunity, how can I ever move on? I must make an attempt at least, or die trying. Sojiro didn't feel much sympathy for Yoshitsune. If you want to open up so bad, then why not just go do it right now? I know what you're trying to say. Look, I'm not the strategic type, and Aozaki probably has her own ideas about romance. Tackling this directly would end in failure. This calls for thinking outside the box. Forget outside the box, you should think outside the whole planet to stand a chance. Spare me the joke, Shizuki. Before you transferred in, Aozaki never spent so much time with a male schoolmate. Do you understand what this means? Either you are very close to her, or you do not even register as a person. Well, one of those is right. Oh, do you see this collar? Yeah. Hey, I already told you I'm not an animal, Sojiro said. Exactly. You, Shizuki, are the first male friend Aozaki has had since her tenure at Misaki High School was established. I need you to find out if she has any interest at all in having a relationship with the opposite sex. Do I look like I have a death wish? Was what he bit back on saying. Instead, he nodded non-committally and opted to play dumb, hoping he could avoid saying anything to draw himself deeper. Unfortunately for him, Yoshitsune went straight for the kill. Basically, I want you to ask Aozaki if she's dating anyone at the moment. A moment of silence. Then at last, Sojiro nodded in defeat. So you're asking me to die for you? Oh wait, we remember in the extra story that oh my god, the teacher the teacher asked her, and then yeah, he almost died. He almost lost his job, lost everything. That was the end of chapter 1. Chapter 2. It was 11:30 at night. After parting with Yoshitsune and finishing his shift at the fish market, the text is kind of weird because when it goes to the next line, but it's like the same word, there's usually a hyphen, but in this, they don't have that, so I might pause. Like, it says the fish mar, and then ket. Sojo returned to the Kuonji estate. There, he saw a light in the drawing room. Curious at the unusual sight, he peeked past the door to see Aoko, Aozaki, and Alice Kuonji lounging inside. The television was rolling the credits of a Thursday evening movie feature. When it comes to Kung Fu, it's gotta be Shaolin, Woodman, losing parents, training, a threat, a meeting, training, new skills, becoming a master, and leaving a station. A villain appears, training, more training, and finally, the last farewell. Everything the main character has ever learned leads up to this point, and his final tearful fight with his master. It's always gotta end with a bang like that. Aozaki's fists were tightened in excitement. Alice, however, remained as reticent as ever. I get what happens, but why does the last cut drag on so long? Can you explain that, Aoko? She sighed dramatically, and in that one sound conveyed everything about the situation. I am doing this for her as her friend because Aoko is so adamant about it. Sojiro saw his chance. The mood in the drawing room was relaxed. No one would blink if he suddenly asked a question. Hey, I'm back. I'm gonna make something to eat before bed. Want some? Really? Yay! I was just thinking that I needed a snack. Thanks! If you two are having something, I'll have a little too. It was a perfect setup. Orders of operations. Shoot the horse before you shoot the general. Butter up the girl with dessert before you bring something up. He had to learn a lot over the 2 months he lived here, and he was about to use that knowledge to its full extent. Now I just have to figure out how to lead it into the... Yoshitsune had requested 2 pieces of information. Aoko Aozaki's relationship status, and her opinion about it, without making her realize the intentions behind it. Sojo wasn't exactly enthusiastic about his mission, but he couldn't back out now after seeing how serious Yoshitsune had been. Besides, Sojiro could have refused, and yet he didn't. He felt like it was a responsibility to give it a try. Okay, Aozaki, Alice, it's finished. Have at it. Sojiro brought the dessert to the sunroom, with Aoko and Alice following after expectantly. He put out a single plate on the table with a silver dome placed over it. It's nothing fancy, but here. He lifted the clock with a clang. On top of the plate he so ceremoniously prepared was a jar filled with vivid red jam next to 3 large slices of bread that were so thick that they looked like gold bars. However, this apparently rich topping was actually some jam bought on sale, and the golden bread was nothing more than a few slices of cold toast, together forming one of the most basic snacks of all time. Jam on toast. That's Shizuki for you. Absolutely nothing put to waste. Alice gracefully took her seat. Too complimentary, if you ask me. This is hardly luxurious. Is this some kind of new form of mental torture? Turning our fine home into a corner candy store? Do you think we live in Siberia? Actually, no. I'd be willing to bet that Siberia is far better off than this. Sojiro said, What? This is the most expensive bread at the bakery. That's luxury if I've ever seen it. You call 150 yen for an eighth of a loaf of a luxury? You insult me. That last line was probably from the movie she just saw. Aoko circled behind Sojiro and captured him in a tight headlock. Apparently the sheer impact of the plainest dessert had been so great that she'd forgotten all about Sojiro's magical collar. Okay, I got it. I told you so many times, Aozaki, you need to learn to be thrifty. There's no way he'd just let it slide. Back when he was starting to live here, the mansion was on the brink of collapse. Aoko received a monthly allowance of 30,000 yen from her family. Alice got 50,000 yen from an unknown donor. For these girls, budgeting compromised a dangerous mix of luck and whimsy, and one of their only rules was to put away any leftover money from the previous month into a jar. Naturally, they ran out of meal funds after 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, okay. For 2 years, until Sojiro showed up, their greatest enemy was worse than any rogue mage, the starvation that awaited them at the end of the every month. Well, you lived in the mountains, so saving up money was like second nature to you. But we're used to spending. It's physically impossible for us. It's also physically impossible to live without food. You need to eat your 3 meals a day, even if you don't like it, Sojiro said. Alice nodded in agreement. As a side note, the meal budget was now left to the extremely frugal Sojiro to manage. It was his privilege as a paying tenant. Ever since the beginning of the year, he took charge. The meals in the mansion grew plainer by the day. Aoko and Alice had tried to fight it every step of the way, but that's another tale for another time. But food is the best thing to splurge on. Ever since you came, we've been eating like peasants, Aoko said. Not like you were eating that well before, Sojiro shot back. Well, what will you know? Fine, I give. Hey, Aozaki, instead of wasting calories on me, you might want to watch your share. Alice is about to grab it. Oops. You could have at least looked guilty about it, Alice. Hands off! Sorry, Aoko. I thought you didn't want it. Sojiro agreed. Yeah, I should have known that she wouldn't want any. I do want it! I love toast and jam! Are you sure you two aren't scheming against me? Alice and Sojiro exchanged looks. Neither of them had the intention to gang up as they did, but when it came to making fun of Aoko, the two of them sometimes fell in perfect rhythm with each other. I guess airheads attract. Aoko didn't pursue it further. Maybe she had already said what she wanted to say, or maybe she remembered that there wasn't much left in the fridge. Page turn. So she sat and reached for a slice of toast. On the other note, the residents of the Kuonji estate were very particular about their desserts. Aoko counted calories for sweets, but she liked to gouge herself on them. Alice, on the other hand, rarely touched any sort of confection, no matter how luxurious or delicious it may be. Wait, but in the All About Ploys thing, she ran a confectionery. She ran a dessert store. It's a lie. For Alice, fruit was her definition of a dessert. She didn't care about pies or chocolate, only enjoyed the occasional scone, and so toast and jam was the perfect compromise for both of them. The three of them finished their modest snack, and settled in with some tea brewed by Alice. Eventually, a few minutes before midnight, just as it was about time for everyone to turn in, Sojiro took the opportunity to break the silence. It'll be spring break soon. I'm thinking about taking a day off work and trying something new, though there's still hurdles at the year-end exams to get over. So yeah, Aozaki, I was wondering if you were up to something, like, say, having a boyfriend? The two girls were struck speechless, as if witnessing an ancient landmark's final collapse. Oh no, he's about to die. Oh no, take off that collar now! A suffocating silence bore down on the sunroom. Sorry? Aoko barely squeezed out her response. What? Oh, I was wondering if you ever had any experience dating. Just curious. Why do you even want to know? Not that I have to tell you anything. Her piercing stare made him avert his eyes. Look at me. I'm not gonna yell at you or strangle you. I'm not yet flying completely off the handle, okay? Nothing to worry about. That sounds like plenty to worry about. Listen, I don't want to be shrieking like a pterodactyl day in or day out, either. If it's an honest question, then I'll answer it to the best of my ability. So can you tell me, Shizuki, why you decided to ask? If it's just curiosity, you'll pay for the question, but I'll give you a straight answer. However, Aoko had a smile on her face that Sojiro had never seen before. He gulped. However, if it turns out that this is someone else's doing, we'll be back to square one before the winter vacation, and there'll be 2 victims this time. I'm not afraid of conjuring up another ghost story for this place. Sweat trickled down Sojiro's back. He mumbled out some vague answer. Normally, he would be honest and confess that he was being asked to, but this time, he couldn't bring himself to look into Aoko's eyes, let alone say anything definite. Fine, it's not hard to say. You just don't want to. Whatever, I'm not even mad. We can put an end to it here. Really? You look pretty mad to me. I just know that nothing I say will matter when you're making that face. Let me guess. Some stupid code of honor is preventing you from telling me who asked you to do this. Huh? Oh no. I can tell you. You know Mino, a year above us. He's planning to ask you out, so he asked me to check if you already had a boyfriend or not. Weirdly enough, Aoko had the exact same reaction as Sojiro did hours ago. What happened to your weird hang-ups? Aren't you supposed to keep that a secret? You never told me to keep it a secret. I had my own reasons for not telling you right away. Wow, so you're actually scum. Aoko had threatened to kill him if he was acting up on someone's behalf. He clammed up because he was scared for his life, so it probably looked to Aoko. No wonder why she seemed disappointed. Ugh. Alright, I don't have a boyfriend. I don't plan on getting one either. Happy? What? I said I never had a boyfriend. I'm serious. Hey, are you laughing at me? No, actually, I'm shocked. I thought you'd be mad because the question came from an outsider. I'd answer anything if Mino asked. I respect him, and he's pretty good looking. If he had just asked me out, then, a good chance I'd say yes to him. Aoko's cheeks were dusted pink like a typical young woman in love. They were interrupted by the loud peals of the grandfather clock. Midnight. That was a cue for Aoko and Alice to return to their room, leaving Sojiro behind to reflect on Aoko's words. Stunned, he whispered something to himself. The universe wouldn't allow that sort of thing, would it? Alright, that was the end of Chapter 2. Chapter 3. The universe works in mysterious ways. It was 3 in the afternoon the following day, and classes had just finished. Sojiro turned down any offers from his schoolmates to hang out, and instead ran straight from the school to a telephone booth outside of town. Once inside, he punched a secret phone number. Hello, Shrine Branch Store. How can I help you? Came the cheerful voice on the line. Sojiro explained what had happened the night before, but to his surprise, he received a rather nonchalant answer. Aoko likes it when people are nice to her. I don't know who's talking at this point. Aoko likes it when people are nice to her. Believe it or not, the silly girl's got a soft spot for normal people. I know that, but dating is a whole different thing. It feels like Aozaki has her guard up when we talk about it. You're pretty perceptive. Yeah, it's not easy to break down her walls, and it's an obvious reason for it. Aoko doesn't like romance. In fact, she despises it. Despises it? That's a little strong. Yeah, but it's not really her fault, you know. Her first love betrayed her really bad. Her what? Oh, wait, okay. So, her what was Sojiro. Sojiro turned over questions in his mind, his warped reflection looking back at him from the glass of the telephone booth. Where could he even start with this? The fact that Aozaki despised romance? That she was hurt? Or did first love have something other meaning? First love just means the first person she had ever went out with. So Aozaki was dating someone and got dumped? No, not quite. Oh, she didn't get dumped, really. Seems more like they're still going out, actually. I mean, her first love lives in Misaki. They even see each other often. Huh? But then came the betrayal. And ever since then, Aoko had something of an allergic reaction to the topic of dating. It's pretty amusing. I mean, sad. Oh, it looks like this Magecraft's line is about to burn out. If we talk any longer, Alice's ploys will find us, and we don't want that. See you. Oh, I don't know who this other person the connection was. Clack. The connection went dead. Still reeling from their conversation, Sojiro placed the receiver back in its holder. He took a few breaths and tried to make sense of the situation. After a little thought, it all began to sound less weird. Aoko Aozaki, the student council president with an iron fist, was a teen like any other. It was only natural that she'd have a few crushes in her time. Okay. At least I sorta get it now. Putting aside his desire to axe his involvement entirely, Sojiro left the telephone booth. He had more important things to worry about than his worsening mood. Just imagining that Aoko still might be going out with her first love was horrifyingly enough. When Sojiro stepped into his usual coffee shop, he noticed that Yoshitsune Mino had gone there first. With his impressive height and white cloak from a bygone era, Yoshitsune struck a strange silhouette against the window next to his seat. His expression, however, held all the anguish of a tortured man of the arts. That meant, of course, that he attracted the gaze of waitresses and passerbys alike. It'd be stranger if they looked elsewhere. Hey Mino. Yoshitsune nodded quietly in response and took a quick glance around. Once he confirmed that there were no other customers nearby, he leaned forward, elbows on the table, and gestured for Sojiro to sit across from him. Now then, your report. The cheer captain went straight to business, his voice deep and dignified. Anyone who knew Sojiro well, knew his simple and straightforward attitude, would wonder if Yoshitsune was in fact just an upgraded version. Here's what I heard. First, Aozaki doesn't have a boyfriend right now, and doesn't plan on getting one. Second, she's never had a boyfriend as far as she can remember. And third, she seems interested in you. How did you get the third one? Too much? No, it's perfect. The swim captain was right to recommend you. Yoshitsune stood from his seat, and as if that was the end of that. However, Sojiro wasn't finished. Fourth, Aozaki despises romance. Fifth, she was betrayed by her first love. 6. She was still involved somehow with this person. 7th, we know this because this person lives in town and meets with Aozaki every so often. It appears this will be no simple matter. Fingers pressed against his temple, Yoshitsune returned to his seat. I know how you feel. Just 20 minutes ago, I had the exact same reaction. Ah, you must have. The more you know about Aozaki, the more everything you thought you knew seems to break down. But aside from the information you just gave me is very different in favor. Did you have a second informant? The first 3 things were from Aozaki herself. The rest I heard from a reliable insider. I wonder who that is. It'd be funny if it was Toko. But they know about ploys, so it's clearly like they're into the magical thing. But I don't know who would Alice would give ploys to just so willy-nilly. Which should I believe? I don't know. I'm just the messenger. You've got a mean side. Sorry, that was rude of me. Let me try again. I'd like your advice, if possible. In exchange, I'll treat you to anything on the menu. He smoothly passed the menu to Sojiro. Sojiro picked out 3 pieces of cake to go. In this case, I think it'd be better to trust the more objective information. You're saying what Aozaki says about herself isn't reliable? Yoshitsune paused for a moment. While I agree, I don't think Aozaki is the type to twist the truth to her convenience. Yeah, but she's also the type to completely misunderstand things that normal people wouldn't. Very true. We are all special in our own way, but Aozaki even more so. Sojiro thought that explaining Aoko was so much easier when both parties knew her well. Seems like I've reached the end of the line. Thanks for everything, Shizuki. That's it? You're giving up? She has someone in her heart already. That her first love of hers? Yes? Only a coward and a bore... next page. Would intrude in someone else's love. There is nothing else I can do. But... Sojiro wants to protest that he was giving up too easily. This is all hearsay though. There is no confirmation that it's true. Besides, aren't you curious who her first love is? Well, perhaps. Yoshitsune crossed his arms, frowning. Sojiro pressed on. Come on, let's go check it out, just in case, you know? You've already paid me for my advice, anyways, so why stop here? But we'd be interfering with her relationship. It would also ruin your side of things. You have to at least look into it. Sojiro's interest took Sojiro aback. He drew his brow together at his underclassmen's enthusiasm. He was very familiar with cheering for others. He was not so familiar with others cheering for him. I suppose I could use some closure. I'd rather not leave with regrets. Yoshitsune nodded deeply and placed his cap on his head. However, this greatly widens the scope of our investigation. Her first love must have happened before high school. Do you know where Aozaki is from? Sorta. It's a little far from here. You know Akiko Shiro Station in Tokawa? Yes, it's a little far indeed. I'm afraid I don't know the middle schools around there, and it would be a long journey to walk. If only there was someone at our school who was classmates with Aozaki back then. Yoshitsune knew that Aoko's time in middle school was shrouded in mystery. She'd once said that her high school was a totally fresh start for her, though she played it off like a joke. Yoshitsune would never forget the shade of sadness in her eyes. We have no other leads, and it would be too long a journey to walk. My only ticket aside, I don't have enough to cover yours, Shizuki. I've been cutting down on spending to save up for after graduation. The two of them folded their arms in thought. Suddenly, a voice. Hey, if you need a ride, I'm here. You okay with the new driver? I just got my... Oh wait, this might be the other guy. Yeah. Hey, if you need a ride, I'm here. You okay with the new driver? I only just got my license, so I was gonna go out for a drive to practice. The voice belonged to a friendly young man who was sitting behind them. I heard everything. Sounds like you got some juicy... a sticky situation on your hands, Sojiro. Ichigo Zuka? Ichigo Zuka, also a regular at the coffee shop, raised his hand in greeting. That was how it all started. After a thorough rundown of the plan, the three of them formed the strangest motley crew of detectives yet. Sojiro wanted to know if the rumor of a first love was true. Yoshitsune was preparing to confess his feeling, and Ichigo Zuka was in it for the kicks. just there for the kicks, yeah. 3 men, 3 goals, 1 road forward. Ichigo Zuka's new car zoomed past the rural scenery. Yoshitsune had been hesitant to accept the offer at first, but with a little sweet talking from Ichigo Zuka and a push from Sojiro, he consented. Ichigo Zuka had a brand new SUV with 4-wheel drive that could cross rough terrain. It was a decidedly average car for someone as attractive as Ichigo Zuka, but he didn't seem to mind. He whispered, oh wait, is Ichigo Zuka gonna be the first love? Maybe that's why he's in it. He already knows the result. That'd be kind of funny. He whispered cheerfully as he maneuvered the steering wheel. Akigoshiro's got 2 middle schools. Which one do you want? The close one or the far one? Ichigo Zuka barreled down the roads without so much as a glance at the map. He was liberal with the gas and practically drifted through most of his turns. Yoshitsune and Sojo sat together in the back. Tsuki, I realize it's far too late to ask, but do you trust this man? In a way, I don't know his background, but he's a regular at the fish market. Everyone in the shopping district knows him as one of those modern young guys who cooks for himself. Good grief. Well, I am thankful for the help, strapped for resources as we are. So long as this man has no ill intentions, then I will go along with him. Yoshitsune leaned back into his seat, massaging the crease between his brow. He looked longingly out at the scenery, rushing past the window. It was one of his last chances to see it. 2 days from now, he would be gone from this place, unable to attend his own graduation ceremony, thanks to his schedule. Only his teachers knew this secret, however. He knew that if he spilled it to his friends or juniors, he wouldn't be able to hold back the tears. Aww. He was over 6 feet tall, with sharp features, and stern eyes hidden behind long eyelashes, a classic Japanese heartthrob, soon to be lost from the front lines of the cheer team, that he seemed born to command. However, underneath the handsome exterior was a surprising timidity. Yoshitsune himself preferred the company of books, but his grandfather was a cheer team legend from before Misaki High School's temporary closure. His family history saw him ushered straight to his post from the moment that he entered high school. He couldn't find it in himself to refuse their invitation. Saying no wasn't easy for him, of course, but part of it was due to his respect towards his grandfather. Even if they had never met, Yoshitsune was also the virtuous sort who didn't want to bring dishonor to his grandfather's incredible legacy. In his first year, however, the cheer team was on the brink of demise. It was an especially unpopular team within a school where many clubs' activities were already on the decline. The previous team captain was the one who invited Yoshitsune. He wasn't the most tactful of people, but he did his best for both the team and Misaki High School. Passionate about athletics filled with a strong sense of solidarity, the captain was a champion of youth, loud and forthright. He would always prop Yoshitsune as the grandson of a cheer legend, even if his underclassmen would have preferred to stay in the shadows. It was his respect for the previous captain's efforts that motivated Yoshitsune to take over the position in his second year. Even though he had looked the part, Yoshitsune did not have the proactive personality needed for it. He needed, next page, encouragement. And the one who gave him that boost was the newly appointed student council president, Aoko Aozaki. He had no idea how Aoko really saw him, but he was under the impression that she believed all the rumors that his rigid authority could assuage the worst tantrums and complaints. Revitalizing the cheer team was also essential in revitalizing athletic clubs. When a leader hesitates, their followers get complacent. Yoshitsune chuckled while he recalled Aoko's caustic words as she barged into the cheer team training room. That was an eventful year, now that I think about it. He had his hands full with the team ever since. With all the previous captain's praise and the student council president's support, he had no choice but to work hard. Over that year, he learned that he didn't have to do everything perfectly to achieve great results. After all, making gambles with no plan ahead was Aoko Aozaki's specialty. We're almost at Akikoshiro. I'll wait in the car. Are you guys going out looking like that? Ichigo Zuka's voice interrupted Yoshitsune's reverie. Is there a problem? I mean, Sojo aside, you kinda stand out, Yoshitsune. At least take off the cape, man. No. I will go like this. I have nothing to hide. Though he had to admit, as he put his hat back on, that his motivations were, in fact, rather cowardly. He did get some weird looks, but the investigation went rather successfully. When the sun began to shrink, after the party left Akikoshiro and turned back to Misaki Town. Both middle schools in Akikoshiro were co-ed, but it was easy to find out which one Aoko had gone to. She had a tendency to stick out from a crowd. The moment her name came up, the stories would come spilling out. This is all based on what we heard, but it appears that Aozaki was a very different person in middle school. Her underclassmen said that she was more of a graceful, demure young lady. And then she became a mage and was crass as fuck. Oh yeah? I wish I could have heard myself. So this Aoko chick was the total package before high school. Ichigo Zuka jumped into the conversation as Sojo and Yoshitsune were going over what they learned. She still is, thank you very much. You sure about that, Mino? She's wise, prudent, respectful, and thoughtful to others. Doesn't resort to violence. Sojo's choker just starts squeezing. Oh man. And doesn't yield to evil. She's a beauty far removed from all deceit and facilla. Ichigo Zuka, your driving's a tad erratic. That sharp turn now was a close call. Whoops. Whoops, sorry. A bird flew right in front and spooked me. It wasn't a crow. A starling, maybe. Oh, it's one of the Robin squad. It's one of the chocolates. Anyways, Sojiro, is this girl that you guys like so much really all that? For a second, I thought they were talking about some other girl with the same exact name, but when I stopped and compared, then yeah, I guess so, Sojiro said. Ichigo Zuka jumped into the conversation as Sojiro and Yoshitsune were going over what they learned. The two high school boys had split up to gather information. A lot of the stories they had heard matched up, meaning that their intel was reliable. The only problem was that they hadn't learned a single thing about her love life. No one ever saw her going out with anyone, which means that her first love wasn't in middle school with her. Everyone makes googly eyes at you when you're dating in middle school though. Maybe she was trying to hide it, Ichigo Zuka posed. I don't think so. Doubtful. Sojiro was certain that Aozaki wouldn't be able to hide it. Yoshitsune was sure that Aoko wouldn't hide the truth. Oh yeah? Then okay, then if nobody saw her around school, that means that she met her first love outside of school. Guess we're gonna be snooping around Misaki tomorrow. Though he acted casual about it, Ichigo Zuka was right. They couldn't find anything at Aoko's middle school, and their only option was to hit the downtown. The three of them arranged a time to meet a day later, then parted ways at Janus. Tomorrow morning, I will follow any leads I have. There might be someone on the cheer team who's seen Aoko's meeting with her first love. Yoshitsune turned and left with the twirl of his cape. After seeing him off, Sojiro headed towards the Kuonji estate, but he couldn't bring himself to go. Not just yet. He'd barely made any progress today. Turning on his heel, he quickly paced across the shopping district. He needed to find out the truth. This enthusiasm was unusual for him. He didn't know where it was coming from. The sun had already disappeared from the sky by the time he arrived at the Aida church. Once inside, instead of Father Eri, he found Yuika Suse in her usual nun habit as she cleaned. Good evening, Sister Yuika. Sojiro announced his arrival so that Yuika would know that he was there. She wasn't able to see him after all. Oh, Mr. Shizuki. My apologies, but we are locking up for early today. Please save any visitations for tomorrow. Oh, I'm not here for a visitation. I had a question. Remembering the amorous nature of his question, Sojiro scratched his cheek awkwardly. While he appeared to be stoic, he was actually quite shy around beautiful women. My, Mr. Shizuki, I never thought I'd sense a chaotic aura around you. This is a shock, or perhaps a welcome development. So, even you are not immune to love. Yuika teased him with an encouraging smile on her face. She would never admit it, but she had the same mischievous streak as her sister Ritsuka. So, Sister Yuika, have you known Aozaki for long? Not that long. Maybe 3 or 4 years? The sister replied. Next page. That's good enough. Anyways, I just want to ask in case, but you knew something, but... did Aozaki have a first love? Pardon? There was a purpose behind his question, and his informant, T... Wait, T... Okay. Yeah, it's Toko! It's definitely Toko, since she also knows about magic and the ploys, and yeah. Had said that Aoko was betrayed by her first love. However, this person's reliability could be questionable at times, so you need to know for sure what was the truth. In all honesty, he hoped that all of this was just a prank. Unfortunately, he wasn't so lucky. Oh, I see. So that's what this is about. She did have a first love, in fact. A first love so tragic, so cruel, so harrowing and painful that Shakespeare himself would have cried at its conclusion. With a smirk unbecoming for a woman of the cloth, Sister Yuika gleefully shattered the young man's faint hopes. Do you know who it was, Sister Yuika? Sojiro asked, nearly dizzy from the shock. Yuika's smile turned as innocent as an angel's. I wouldn't know. I'm blind. I have no idea what they look like. This is just what I've heard, and I cannot speak on anyone else's past based on pure conjecture. However, I might be convinced to divulge more in a confessional. The confessional was a tiny wooden room built into the corner of the church. It looked like 2 phone booths stuck together, with one side for the priest and one side for the visitor, the latter of whom confesses their sins across the divide. It was a place away from the rest of the world, where all sins, secrets, and suffering could be left inside and forgotten. In a town with so many people, the confessional was an important place of spiritual healing. Humans were not built to carry mental burdens forever, no matter how tiny. Even if confessing one's sins was a bandage over a gaping wound, it was still reassuring to have a place to put one's worries aside for a while. I don't know. This isn't that serious, really. Wait, is it? Not unless you were directly involved. Yet, if I were Aoko, I would have silenced anyone related to my first love, eschewed all mortal pleasures, and joined a convent. Young women do not become nuns so early unless they have faced something of this scale. Is that a joke? Sojiro could not tell. Of course, many sorrows on this earth must be laughed away to finally be rid of them. For a joke, it was horrifying, especially since Yuika wasn't known to jest. But I digress. Perhaps Ritsuko would be a better person to ask. She has a talent for finding and spreading rumors, that one. Alright, where is she? Loafing around in the break room, last I checked. I assume that she's still inside. The break room was beyond the chapel, in the quarters where Yuika and Father Eri stayed. Sojiro bowed his head to Yuika before heading over. Hello, Ritsuka, are you here? His knock was met with silence. Next, he tried the doorknob, which turned easily. Someone was definitely inside. Maybe Ritsuka was still sleeping. Hello, I'm coming in. When he opened the door, he found the room beyond curiously uninhabited. The oil heater was still on, though the spring was in the air, and on the table was a half-eaten orange, an unfinished mystery novel, and a single note. Huh? The note was clearly meant to be read. He picked it up. You must have thought I'd be as helpful as that black-hearted sister. You're out of luck! I'm Ritsuka, the master procrastinator. I heard everything. You've got an interesting story, but it's a hard pass from me. Sorry, I do not want to deal with Aoko's fury. Oh my god. The note scrawled in pink and green highlighter disappeared from the second Sojiro finished reading. He let out a long sigh. She was so dramatic. Why are the both of you like this? This went nowhere. He left that remark and the room after turning off the heater. Okay, I just skimmed through the book and it seems like there are 5 chapters, but there's also a 4.5 that is after chapter 5 for some reason. The next morning, clouds filled the sky. Before Sojiro could leave the coffee shop, Aoko stopped him in the Kuonji estate foyer. You have work today, Sojiro? I can't stop you if you have plans already. You know exams start in 2 days from now, right? It's too early to say whether I'll be fine, but I'll be back in the evening. I'll just cram tonight. Okay, but you know, you've been acting kind of weird lately. You didn't get into another sketchy job, did you? Don't worry about that. What I'm doing is more like volunteer work. Volunteer work? That sounds even worse. Sojiro wriggled out of Aoko's interrogation and hurried to the coffee shop. It was early March, days before the end of the year exams. The investigation, which had begun with Yoshitsune's plea for help, was now in its 3rd day. At Misaki High School, preparations for the graduation ceremony had begun immediately after the exam season ended. Sojiro didn't want to make Aoko any more stressed than she already was. He was determined to finish this search quickly. He only had a few days. No, considering his situation, only today. Mino's taking his sweet time, isn't he? Yeah, he sure is calm for a guy who needs to ask a girl out before graduation. Sojiro and Ichigo Zuka whispered to each other in an inconspicuous corner of Janus. Yoshitsune hadn't arrived yet, and Sojiro took the chance to complain. He's got a different goal though. See? Me and you are just curious about how things are gonna play out. But Yoshitsune had his mind set from the start. All of this was just to make sure the coast is clear for his confession. As long as nothing huge comes up, he'll probably ask Aoko out when his time is up. Huge? Like what? Like whether she has a boyfriend already or not. He doesn't seem to care about who her first love is or whatever, but if you tell a girl who's already dating someone that you like her, it'll just give her more to worry about, right? Realizing what Ichigo Zuka meant, Sojiro nodded. He was still the only one who heavily invested in the search for Aoko's first love. Ichigo Zuka was just trying to support Yoshitsune. Yoshitsune was only making sure that he wouldn't cause trouble for Aoko. The cheer captain had already mentally prepared to proceed with his plans, as long as it wouldn't be too much of a problem. He doesn't want Aozaki to get hurt in the process, so he's first checking if asking her out won't bother her too much. Am I getting this right? Right. He's fine if he's the only one getting hurt. Personally, I think he's being a little too careful, but I guess that shows how much he cares. Yoshitsune was every bit the guy the rumors made him out to be. His grit and determination had saved Misaki High's cheer team from the brink of destruction. Handsome, calm, quiet, and extremely thoughtful, The team captain had probably never lost his cool in front of anyone. Sojo couldn't help but be impressed. Sorry for the wait. Oh no need for a menu. I'll be leaving very soon. And speak of the devil, the man himself appeared in his full white-caped glory. He easily strode past the waitress, who looked like she was about to ask for an autograph. I've never seen you be in such a hurry. Did you learn something new? There's been a sudden and very important development. Despite his haste, Yoshitsune took a seat and leaned forward on the table before beginning to speak. A member of the cheer team has a younger sister who was classmates with Aozaki in middle school. When I inquired further, I gleaned some information on her first love. Whoa! Yoshitsune continued. He's older than Aozaki. Apparently, a kind-looking college student from the area. That's kind of vague. I can think of a million guys who match that description. But Aozaki's circumstances narrow the possibilities. If he was in college when she was in middle school... Okay, that's kind of creepy, but I'm kind of wondering... Is it also going to be Father Eri? Father Eri was just a crush of both sisters? I don't know, maybe. If he was in college when she was in middle school, he must have been at least 5 years older. Plus, based on what Shizuki learned before, he's from around here, and he still meets with Aozaki often, right, Shizuki? Yeah, but it's strange. If she was talking to someone that much older, wouldn't there be more witnesses? Precisely. This means that Aozaki's first love is someone no one could think twice about. Someone who doesn't look like her partner despite meeting her so often. I can only think of one person who fits the bill. No one would think twice seeing Aozaki talk to him in town or at school if he's 5 or more years older. Looks harmless. Ah! Realization lit Sojo's face. There was someone who fit that description. Did you guys think of someone? Who? Let me in on it. You probably haven't met him before, but... The student body advisor at Misaki High School, Mr. Kazuki Yamashiro, matched all of the criterias. I don't know about this. When Yoshitsune spoke the culprit's name, he grew visibly tense. Looking back on it, Aoko and Yamashiro did act strangely for teacher and student. They behaved more like siblings, like they trusted but never relied on each other too much. The evidence suggested that they had some sort of history. It was just before 3 in the afternoon, 1 hour before school closed for the day. No time for the form of strategy, the trio flew out of the coffee shop to the school. Mr. Yamashiro, were you Aozaki's first love? Are you trying to get me fired? Kazuki Yamashiro responded immediately with a bright smile. His eyes, however, were devoid of mirth. They had only just entered the teacher's room, and 3 seconds in, their investigation was thrown back to square one. I'm sorry, I am, asking for personal reasons. No need to explain, Mino. I want no part in this child's play, even by accident. If I hear why you asked that question, or why you asked me in particular, I'd be stepping past the point of no return. Mr. Yamashiro smiled at the intruders and glanced at his watch. 3 minutes until school hours were over. His expression said it all. He absolutely did not, under any circumstance, want to do overtime. Will that be all? Please excuse me then. Mino, Shizuki, I must warn you before you go. Inviting strangers into the school would usually be reported to the student council president as well. I will overlook it right now, as I'd rather not get involved. With a curt farewell, Mr. Yamashiro took his leave. It was mere moments before he was on the road, delighted to clock out right on time. And that's the Mr. Yamashiro we know. Truly, even our school newspaper will have some differences between each point. Yet Mr. Yamashiro is always the same. His consistency is almost admirable. I mean, I like him, but he's a real piece of work. A very capable teacher with questionable personality. The clock now pointed just past 4 o'clock. The trio stood aimlessly in front of the closed gates of Misaki High School. The sun had already begun to sink, and they were at a dead end. They all looked about ready to go home. That'll be all then. Yeah, let's give it a final go tomorrow. Yoshitsune turned to Sojiro and bowed his head low. No, Shizuki, we stop here. You only have a day until the exams begin. I cannot trouble you any longer than this. Thank you for all your help. Are you gonna tell Aozaki about how you feel right now then? Sojiro asked. That wouldn't be prudent. Aozaki has exams to study for. I'll save it for after the graduation ceremony. Alright, well it was fun, but it's time to call it quits. To be honest, I don't have much time to keep going either. You might not expect it, but I'm a busy man, you know. I can't leave work out to dry for 3 whole days. Both Yoshitsune and Ichigozuka looked relieved. Only Sojiro still felt something was missing. I'll drive you back to Janice. You haven't eaten yet, right? I'll treat you, as long as it's on the cheaper side. The three of them clambered into Ichigozuka's SUV. The impressive hum of the F4 engine echoed over the quiet roads. The 3-day investigation into Aoko's first love had ended without anything conclusive. Sojiro turned down Ichigozuka's offer and returned alone to the Kuonji estate. Yoshitsune and Ichigozuka planned to treat themselves to a feast after all their hard work, but Sojiro wasn't in the mood for celebration. He journeyed up the long road towards the Kuonji family's private property. Past a stone gate and iron fence was a small forest. After a short walk, he arrived at the Kuonji estate, drenched in the rays of the setting sun. I'm back, he said soullessly as he opened the front door. Welcome back. Judging by your expression, I'm guessing that you didn't find what you were looking for. Alice? Alice Kuonji was standing in the foyer alone. Either she was just passing by or she had been waiting for Sojiro to return. She was clutching a red box in her hands. Inside lay 24 pieces of chocolate, the kickshaw of a witch. Don't tell her I said this, but Toko once mentioned something. My little sister's got her head in the clouds. She asked me how she could get engaged, even though she was still in elementary school. Something like that. There was not a hint of joke in her voice. Her tone was as straight and narrow as an arrow. He didn't know what her motivations were, but the box in her hand was a clear warning. Falling objects might be overheard. Who did she want to marry? I didn't care to pry, but I can guess. I'm sure that you're aware that there was another disciple at the Aozaki family when Toko was there. That person visited Aozaki's home every day and tutored Aoko. Sojiro bit his lip. He knew the answer. Somewhere deep down, he had known from the moment he learned Aoko had a first love. Yeah, it's definitely Father Eri. There was a person who knew Aoko and looked after her since before she became a mage. A real charmer, swathed all in black, who had once offered Aoko to run away together. I thought I had nothing else to go on, but suddenly I do. Thanks, Alice. I'm gonna see Father Eri. Don't mention it. I admit, I'm not a fan of digging into someone else's past, but I understand why you'd wait, Father Eri? By the time Alice stretched out her hands to stop him, it was already too late. He had already left like it was shot out of a cannon, disappearing into the sun before she could say another word. I didn't even finish. Alice let out a troubled sigh. A twittering sounded from her shoulder, and her little blue robin flew down. What you doing here in the foyer, Alice? Who was on the dog and bone just now? Alice looked mildly surprised at the sudden chirping, but then lowered her gaze apologetically. Aoko had to rush out after getting a call from the student council secretary. I forgot to tell Shizuki the most important thing. Oh no, it's not Father Eri? Was there a misunderstanding? You didn't do nothing wrong! And you still feel guilty. That's our Alice! She wasted no time in stretching out her palm, and with a boing, blue rubber balls appeared in the foyer. Sojiro bolted over to Janice to find Yoshitsune and Ichigozuka still inside, enjoying cups of tea after their meals. Fortunately for Sojiro, Ichigozuka made it a habit to not rush dinner. What's wrong, Shizuki? It appears that you went home before running back here. Couldn't resist the call of a free dinner after all. Mino, our investigation isn't over yet. I got a new lead. Aozaki's first love is in the Ida Church. Sojiro explained the bare details through ragged breath. Yoshitsune contemplated this, his gaze austere. Whoa, for real? Ichigozuka said, cutting the tension in two. Are you certain? From what I understand, Aozaki's first love was her home tutor. The one who had access to Aozaki's home at the time was a man from the Ida Church. He did not include the fact that this man was also a disciple of Maidcraft. I see. I'd given up rather too early. Yoshitsune jammed his cap on his head and stood up. Let's get to this church. I want to know what sort of man that is, and whether he's still with Aozaki. Ichigozuka, can you drive us? We need to get there before it closes. Ichigozuka looked completely bewildered, or rather, like he wanted to run. Oh, wait a second. I said I'm busy. I don't have time to cart you guys around. You said you'd be busy starting tomorrow. Please, Ichigozuka. We just need a ride. Zip us over there and it'll be done. The two boys held Ichigozuka hostage with their pleas, leaving him nowhere else to run. Okay, Jesus. It's almost 7 though. If the church is closed, we're turning right back around. We clear? The boys nodded vigorously. Guess it's worth it to try our luck, Ichigozuka relented. Perhaps all of Yoshitsune's efforts had gifted him a boon, but the church hadn't closed yet when the three of them arrived. lights were on in the chapel and the front doors were propped open. Yuika wasn't there. Instead stood the head of the church himself, Father Eri Fumitsuka. The black-cladded priest wore an easygoing smile, as if he'd been expecting them to come. What a curious trio. You look well, Mino. Father Eri seems to know all three visitors. He knew nearly everyone in Misaki Town, as he often left church duties to the nuns so that he could take walks around town. Excuse me, Father Fumitsuka. I come on personal business, not school business. Yoshitsune strode between the pews without hesitation to stand face to face with the priest. To Father Eri, it was a normal visitation, but to Yoshitsune, it was his last stand. The hardened expression on his face was reserved for the enemies, and this was his rival in love. I sense tension. Now that I think about it, we hadn't had an opportunity to speak personally, have we? Go on then. Ask what you wish to ask, though I presume it will be about Aoko. Eri Fumitsuka was someone to be feared. Determination flared in Yoshitsune's eyes. Sojiro stood behind him, silent. Ichigozuka looked tense. This was all Father Eri needed to deduce what was going on. The tension in the air was suffocating. Sparks seemed to fly between Father Eri and Yoshitsune, fanned by the white and black cloaks. They could be at each other's throats any second. Ichigozuka held his breath, watching them from near the door. Sojiro stood a little ways away, between Yoshitsune and Ichigozuka. No doubt, he wanted to keep his distance from the priest, as usual. The four of them formed a straight line from the altar to the entrance. Mino. As Yoshitsune sized up the priest, Sojiro spoke up. It was a silent push, an unspoken, if you won't say it, I will. I know. Threats are useless against Father Fumitsuka. He then turned to clearly address the priest. Father, excuse my rudeness, but I must be frank. Are you currently seeing Aozaki? Of course. It's been 6 years or so already. Having no relations at all would be more difficult. Is it true that you broke her heart? If you mean did I change the course of her destiny, then yes. I suppose the blame lies within me. And what does Aozaki think of this? Yoshitsune asked. Nothing. Her hatred could not change what has already come to be. From Aoko's perspective, her only choice is the lament in acceptance. Yoshitsune did not waver for a moment. I see. That is all I need to know. Heroic words, befitting of an experienced team captain. That should have been the end of the line for Yoshitsune. The rumor that Aoko's first love was still seeing her despite having betrayed her was now confirmed to be true. On the surface, it looked like Aoko was completely smitten. No, this is all about magic stuff. This is the wrong person, no! However, Yoshitsune had sworn something to himself. If Aoko was already in a happy relationship, then opening up her wound would be of no avail. He would gracefully step down. But if her relationship wasn't happy, that was a different story. In that case, he was prepared to fight against her first love man to man. Apologies for the noise on your restful evening. I believe you and I will be facing off very soon, Father. I don't know, every time I see Father, I think Daddy, and that just makes things awkward. Yoshitsune excused himself and turned with a swirl of his cape. Seeing him about to leave, Father Eri spoke up. I think we have a misunderstanding about something here. So let me be clear. I'm not Aoko's first love, and neither am I the sort of vile creature that would feel desire for every woman I see. What did you say? Yoshitsune and Sojiro were dumbstruck. Sojiro followed his distaste for the priest momentarily, nearly face-planting in shock. No way. You were a disciple at the Aozaki's. I know it. Alice said Aozaki's first love was his disciple, he said. Ah, I see what's going on now. I am no disciple, Sojiro. I am simply a friend of Aoko's grandfather. Magecraft is a taboo to clergy, Father Eri's eyes seemed to say. He could not mention the mystical while Yoshitsune was here. Then why are you going to her house every day? I was mountain climbing, conditioning as a part of my fencing regimen. Sojiro began to feel dizzy. Everything had, page flip, gone back to square one. Yet again. Sojiro had a strong will, but all this wasted effort was getting to him. Please, you mustn't give up so soon. It wasn't me, but there was indeed someone who visited Aozaki's home as a disciple. That person learned alongside Toko and tutored Aoko whenever there was time. There was a loud cough behind Sojiro, but he was too engrossed in this conversation to notice. Then, who was it? Sojiro's blunt question and Yoshitsune's probing gaze finally toppled Father Eri's will. The corners of the priest's mouth curled up. It was Ritsuka. The answer was a bolt from the blue. Huh? You see, Ritsuka regularly visited the Aozaki home as a disciple. I'm sure you're aware, Sojiro. Toko was the talk of the town around that time. They had a genius that had been born into the Aozaki family, a successor at last. The association had sent someone to observe, no, to evaluate Toko, and that someone was Ritsuka. She was the easy choice, as this is her hometown. I'm sorry, Father. Can I just double-check one thing? When you say Ritsuka, do you mean the woman who's well known in the shopping district for not being able to hold down a job, for being totally aimless, for window shopping all the bouquets, and never making any sense? That Ritsuka? The very same, Father Eri said. Let me be even more transparent. Aoko's first love is not me, but Ritsuka. But Ritsuka is a woman. She is. So what? So what? So what? So what? The Yuri! The priest's nonchalant words echoed through their heads. Yoshitsune looked utterly dazed. Sojiro could swear that he heard the gentle crack of a heart breaking in two as the cheer team captains fell to his knees. A minute of awkward silence passed. At last, Yoshitsune stood up from between the pews. I apologize for making such a fuss. Let's agree to not speak of what has transpired tonight. Of course. A true warrior never tells. Eyes spinning, Yoshitsune turned from the priest and wobbled towards the door. Are you okay, Mino? We must not interfere with true love. If this is how Aozaki approaches her love life, then there is no place for me. No. For any man. Huh? Why? Sojiro did not understand what he meant. The two boys' shock came from different places. It would seem that some time before Sojiro learned what same-sex attraction was. I mean, this was like the 80s or early 90s. I think it was the 80s. So I guess things would be much different then, unfortunately. Yoshitsune left the chapel behind, not even stopping to thank Ichigozuka. Whew, that was a big shock. I feel a little guilty seeing poor Yoshitsune like that. Ichigozuka spoke as he watched the dazed boy leave. Sojiro nodded in agreement, feeling apologetic. Hey, Ichigozuka, why did Mino act like that? Why did Mino act like it was the end of the world? You don't know? Oh, don't worry about it, Sojiro. It's over now. Case closed. Come on, Sojiro. Let's get out of here. Ichigozuka motioned for him to follow out the chapel. Father Eri cut in with a smile of a saint upon his face. Oh, both of you, wait a moment. There's someone I would like to introduce you to. Come on in. Huh? Who? The door beside the altar leading... Oh, it's gonna be Aoko, isn't it? The door beside the altar leading into the living quarters opened. A girl appeared, 17, with long hair and bright blue eyes. In contrast with her graceful beauty, she seemed to physically emanate a strong elderly sister aura. My, this is quite the juicy scoop, isn't it? I think it's too early to close the case. It was Student Council President Aoko Aozaki. Oh god! Aozaki? Normally, he wouldn't be so horrified to see her, but given how he's been looking into her love life behind her back, he was sure that he was going to face the same fate as Hosuke Kinomi. He shook like a leaf, nearly numb from fear. Don't make any sudden moves. If you try to run, I can't promise you'll make it out alive. Aoko rolled up her sleeves as she strode up to him. The claws were out. Her fury burned easily far more intensely than that time at the amusement park. Sojiro knew exactly what awaited him. Ooh, wait a sec. I know why you're mad at me, but was this that bad? In a last-ditch effort to stop Aozaki from killing him for good, he protested desperately, but Aozaki had other ideas. Not you! The jerk back there! He wasn't her target. Instead, her glare pointed directly at Ichigozuka, who was standing by the entrance in cold sweat. Oh, is he gonna be the first love? I thought his role was really weird, because he seemed like a completely random bystander. Not me. Oh, I'll give you an earful later, Shizuki, but you're not the biggest issue right now. So let's hear it. Why were you, the main culprit, tagging along with Mino all this time? Answer me, Ritsuka. Oh, answer me, Ritsuka. Ritsuka was... Oh my god, Ritsuka was Ichigozuka the entire time. Sojiro stopped dead at the name and turned around. Of course, all he saw was Ichigozuka. Ichigozuka is... Ritsuka? It's not like I was trying to trick anybody, really. Oh, wow, you got me. Ichigozuka laughed sheepishly. Aoko moved towards him without a word, As she passed Sojiro, she lifted her right hand up to the height of her chest, writing a powerful straight right blow. Wait, this is all a misunderstanding. I never told anyone anything. Somebody explain to me what's going on, Sojiro said. So you haven't heard, Sojiro? Father Eri chimed in. Ritsuka is a member of the Mages Association who specializes in espionage. She excels in disguising herself using magecraft and can even change her muscles and bone structure. When she was sent to observe the Aozaki family, she used her male and female forms to expertly infiltrate their home as a disciple. She even took up the task of tutoring Aoko, even though it was beyond her job description. As a result, the young Aoko developed feelings for the man Ritsuka had disguised herself as. She got played. Oh my god. Sojo was too astonished to laugh. No way. Even your first love was a total misunderstanding? Aoko's brow twitched at Sojo's reaction, but she ignored him and closed in on Ichigozuka on Ritsuka Susei. I'm gonna ask you one thing before I kill you, Ritsuka. Why on earth did you disguise yourself and follow along with Sojiro and Mino? It was Ritsuka's last chance to defend herself. Staring up at Aoko, she laughed awkwardly. I just thought it'd be funny. That's always how it is with you! The sound of a full-force blow echoed through the chapel. Ichigozuka floated in slow motion for a short moment, then crumbled onto the hard cobblestone below. Oh my god, that was a great ending, oh my god. But there's still one more chapter, and then like the half chapter. Chapter 5. Upon the peak of a mountain far above civilization, or at least halfway up the mountain, stood a girl's home. This girl lived together with her father, mother, and sister for about 4 years her elder. They weren't a normal family by any means, but they were loving. Apparently her parents had only married after many years of dating. Nobody knew that it was because her father had been afraid to propose, or if they simply couldn't have rushed to tie the knot. Still, it was a drama-free relationship. The girl's father did not take up the family business. At the time, she and her sister were told that their father had distanced himself from the family trade after getting married. The truth was far more complicated. Their parents met when their father was in his first year of high school. On that day, he visited the cavern where his father, the head, resided. There, he made it very clear that he did not think a family business was for him, and that times had changed. The girl would learn about this much, much later, but it only made her respect for her father grow. Her father was not a genius by any means, but he had a personal creed that not even her grandfather could contest. The creed was simple. His wife was the most important thing in the world to him. The moment he met her, he was ready to throw away hundreds of years of tradition. The duty will then fall to your children. Will you still forfeit the headship? Said her grandfather. It will be their duty eventually, whether I accept or not. If they choose the family trade, then I will support them as their dad. Not that a good-for-nothing like me could possibly have children, yet he was blessed with progeny. His first daughter, the girl's older sister, had talent that was clear before she was even born. A child so gifted only comes once in 100 years, came the association's message of congratulations, which left the father a bit troubled. One would expect him to lament the fact that the daughter, so talented, would be born to a man who rejected his family inheritance, but the truth was... Crap! This kid's gonna be expensive! Her education's gonna cost 10 times the average. Her talent wasn't of any concern to him, only the cost of the environment he needed to grow her potential. 7 years after her birth, his first daughter declared that she would take up the mantle as the head of the family, though no one was sure how serious to take the decision of such a young girl. Thanks to that, though, their home now saw a slew of foreign tutors shuffle in and out. The girl, this family's second daughter, had talent as well, though only a fraction of the first. Next to her elder sister, she was a disappointment. Comparing them was like comparing a microwave meal to a steak dinner. As long as her older sister was the page flip heir, the girl would never inherit the family trade. My sister is the chosen one, not me. The truth was cruel. Still, the girl felt no envy or inferiority. Rather, she thought herself lucky to be able to leave everything to her sister and enjoy her own life. Though perhaps she did hold a tiny, tiny grudge. Though sometime after she started elementary school, the new tutors that came to their home were different from the rest. We have a twin brother and sister coming this time, said the girl's older sister. Oh, it's gonna be Ritsuka and Yuika, but Ritsuka's a god. They come before as disciples. It's a bit complicated, but that means that they'll study under the same mentor as I do. One of them is going to help around the house. I hear. If you don't feel like going to cramp school, why not learn from him, Aoko? It was the beginning of the girls' romantic tale with the Susei twins. Or rather, with Ritsuka Susei. Ritsuka had been running a private investigation masquerading as two people, basically. She was a spy. At the time, Yuka had not yet transferred to Misaki. In her normal appearance, Ritsuka pretended that she was Yuka, and she disguised herself as a man. In her normal appearance, Ritsuka pretended that she was Yuika, and when she disguised herself as a man, she used her real name. The fictitious Susei brother, Ritsuka, didn't have the same darkness around him as the Susei sisters did. He was a bright, cheerful, friendly young man. He was a college student from the city, and the first stranger that the girl ever felt comfortable with. Ritsuka, are you not going to join Toko? The girl asked him once. That's for Yuika to deal with. I prefer relaxing here with you, Aoko. I don't want to have to think too hard, you know? The girl was very much aware of his, or rather her, true nature. He was both kind and handsome, but after a while, his laziness became apparent. The man, charming as he could be, was totally unsalvageable. I see. So you're born to mooch off women forever. Are you ever gonna change? Am I that horrible? Ritsuka asked. Then I guess I should straighten up. Maybe I'll go to a chiropractor or pick up yoga. Oh, very funny. Instead of trying to straighten up your back, you should be going to a hospital to get a brain transplant. Harsh, but fair. Better watch yourself around me, Aoko. Either Ritsuka's brazen laziness made the girl feel more comfortable, or it spread to her like a disease, but eventually the girl's walls began to come down. She grew to admire Ritsuka's outlook on life, a feeling that she mistook for love. It was a mistake so damning that she would later wish to rewrite the Akashic records. Autumn neared its end, the leaves red like fire on their branch. The Susei siblings would end their stay in 2 months. When the little girl learned of this, she immediately put her innate rationality and sharp judgment to work. Yuika, may I ask a question? How might I get engaged to Ritsuka? Yuika let out a huge guffaw, as if she had just heard the funniest joke in the world. What a weirdo. Mages are so bizarre, the girl thought, wrinkling her nose as if looking at a pig. The girl began to lay out careful plans. She had a personal code. If she was going to play, she was playing to win, no matter the cost. She applied it to everything, even romance. She would reveal her feelings on the Susei twins' last day at the Aozaki home. This way, she could corner Ritsuka and force him into a choice. For such a young girl, it was a devious plan. Unfortunately, fate was not in the good mood. She had yet to realize that the more that she perfected her plans, the more she'd be tempting fate. One factor in her downfall was asking Yuika for help. The girl asked Yuika for all sorts of advice, and even opened up her heart about her feelings. All with the promise that this would eventually be kept a secret from Ritsuka. In the end, she never could tell why Yuika would slap a hand over her own mouth whenever a girl would go on about her dreams. Finally, the day of destiny arrived. On a night when the moon shone the most beautiful above the mountains, she told Ritsuka her feelings. In 6 years, I'll be the most loving, graceful woman in the world, and prove myself as a public figure far more distinguished than my future husband. Plus, I'll have a 7-figure salary. What will you do in those 6 years, Ritsuka? If you have no ambition, then why not ask Toko to put you in cryosleep? I'll be successful and rich, so you don't have to worry about work and just stay the way you are, essentially. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. She's got everything figured out. Everything was perfect. All Ritsuka had to do was wait 6 years, and boom! He'd have the ideal wife. Of course he would choose to wait, right? Never mind losing 6 years of his life, or maybe even his memories in the process. Then, the second cause of the girl's downfall. Oh! Are you still in disguise, Ritsuka? Your job ends today, so there's no reason to keep pretending to be a man, right? Here, I'll remove the transformation spell on you. Crap, Ritsuka said. What's going on? The girl asked. The real elder Susei twin had waltzed into the scene without a second thought. Well, it was partially the girl's fault for choosing the veranda of all places to reveal her true feelings. In her defense, the view was gorgeous. Yuika had a bottle of milk in her hand and a towel around her neck, as if she had just had a bath. She snapped her fingers, and the Cinderella spell fell at midnight, returning Ritsuka to the form of a young woman. What? The girl's face flushed beet red. Her hands were balled into a fist, shaking. She was quick on the uptake and understood within mere seconds. Just as it all dawned upon her, a dark fury began to brew inside her mind. The person she was about to profess her love to... Page flip. was the very same person that she so innocently spilled her heart to just days before. The first person I fell in love with was a woman in disguise? The deep shame the girl felt had her on the verge of a rampage. How is this happening? Ritsuka slowly took a step back. I had a secret mission to fulfill, okay? I wasn't trying to deceive you. I don't care about your mission. I'm talking about when I asked you, Yuika, for help, and you didn't tell me the truth or even push me in another direction. Why? That? I mean, there was a reason for that. Look at me. My disguise was perfect, right? I was confident I wouldn't be found out. Besides, you would have self-destructed sooner or later. I was just so curious to see how it was gonna play out, you know? Just couldn't help myself. Tee-hee. Ritsuka pretended knocked her own forehead in a gesture meant to be cute. The very next moment, she took an explosive straight right to the gut. The girl had put her entire being into the blow. I should have known! This woman is the scum of the earth! Thus, the curtains were drawn on the tale of the young girl who had been horribly betrayed by her first love. This all happened 6 years ago. Ugh, I didn't want to remember that. Shivering in the cold, Aoko readjusted the scarf around her neck. Early spring mornings were still very chilly. The time was 6:12 a.m. The bus stop stood beyond the forest, glowing faintly in the early morning light. Misaki Hills was shrouded in the biting mist, with no signs of waking life. Aoko waited alone. 10 minutes left until the first bus. He should be here any minute, she thought as she glanced at her watch. Then, just as she expected, a figure materialized from the mist around the traffic intersection and began to head towards the bus stop. They were impressively tall and sported a white cloak and hat. At last, Yoshitsune Mino appeared at the bus stop, wheeling a suitcase behind him. His eyes wide in surprise seeing someone already there, not to mention his high school crush. But his surprise only lasted for an instant, his expression softening into something warm and affectionate. Of course she would go out of her way to say goodbye. Chest swelling with pride for her, Yoshitsune greeted her like it was any other day. Good morning, Aozaki. Good morning, Mino. Apologies for being so forward, but I've come to see you off. Do you have time for that? It's the first day of exams for you. Well, after I'm done here, I'm gonna go to school and bear myself in review. I have to uphold an above-average score if I'm to call myself the student council president. She smiled wryly. Yoshitsune mirrored her expression. Though the whole thing was behind them now, Yoshitsune no longer had misunderstandings about Aoko. He got a call clearing it all up from Sojiro, who'd been read the riot act. On the phone with Sojiro, Yoshitsune had asked if Aoko had put him up to this. Sojiro shared the truth. Aoko had specifically requested Sojiro to say yes to that question. From that, Yoshitsune correctly deduced Aoko's intentions. Even though she probably heard the whole story from Sojiro, Aoko was trying to return everything to how it was before the whole investigation had begun. Her message was simple. What you choose and what you do is all up to you. She already knew what her answer would be, but it was Yoshitsune's choice whether to say something or not. She did not want to influence his decisions. He smiled into the receiver when he realized that he had the answer he'd been wanting for an emotional couple of years. Looking back at their memories together, if he could have any wish granted, it would be to spend more time at school with Aoko Aozaki like this forever. He should have realized his true feelings earlier. It was wrong to think that he needed to hurry up and confess his feelings to her. What he'd fallen in love with was the way of living that Aoko had shown him. He hadn't bothered to learn about the girl herself. He'd been living in a fantasy thinking that was all she ever needed to be, and that he wished to study alongside his vision of her. That wasn't true love. It was nothing more than a yearning for a particularly wonderful part of his life. That was his conclusion, regardless of what anyone else thought. He was grateful for Aoko Aozaki for all she had done for him. That was why she wanted to bring a slow, satisfying conclusion to this chapter in their lives. I'm surprised you knew. I thought I only told the teachers. You left preparations for the graduation ceremony to the rest of your team. I knew that could only mean that you wouldn't be there yourself. I see. How's the vice captain, captain doing? Managing somehow, Aoko said. I hear he wants to quit though. Your shoes are hard to fill. Foolish. The captain's shoes are always hard to fill. Tell him that his first task as captain is to rise to the challenge nonetheless. Wise words. The two of them spoke as if none of the events over the past few days had occurred. As if they would see each other at school again tomorrow. The sound of an engine came from afar, like a rising drum beat. Then the faint glow of headlights pierced through the morning mist. The bus is here. It is time for me to go. So it seems. Where are you going to school, Mino? If it's not that far, I can come visit you this summer. I'm afraid it's further than you'd think. I'll be in Ithaca, New York, studying genetic engineering. Oh, wow. He's going really far. Aoko's eyes... Page flip. Aoko's wide-eyed reaction caused Yoshitsune to scratch at his nose in embarrassment. Unbeknownst to her, her reaction alone would be enough to get him through the hardships to come. Congratulations! That's amazing! I'm sure you'll be great. She gave him a genuine smile from the bottom of her heart. Thank you. I was never quite as quick-witted and courageous as you, though. The bus rolled up to stop in front of them. The doors opened with a gentle whish, as if silently urging Yoshitsune to get on. The engine slowed to an idle, and the driver fought back with a sleepy yawn. 3 minutes were left until departure, so he had to say his goodbyes. You're still going to wear that cape overseas? Yeah, I was embarrassed about it at first, but I just don't feel right without it. Do you remember when you... I do. It was the first impossible thing I asked of you. Yoshitsune returned Aoko's smile with one of his own. Back when he had first taken up his position as captain, he tried to quit. That was when the newly appointed student council president had forced this cape on him. Whatever you do, you should look the part. Wear this, Mino. I know that you'll look great in it, she had said. Yoshitsune had wore it ever since. The cape was a symbol of his determination. As long as he wore it, he had no choice but to act the part. Others followed in the wake of this strong man, and so he had forged ahead to clear the way. But above all, he was happy that the color Aoko had chosen for him was white. Every time the president and captain worked together, they tested their own limits. Such were his shining, precious memories. They truly had blazed through their youth at the speed of light. Sorry, I might cry. Oh, please don't. Tears wouldn't suit you, Aoko said. They were interrupted by a loud honk. The driver kicked the engine back into motion. Can I just apologize for one thing, Mino? Aoko Aozaki's expression, bright just a moment ago, was now clouded. Apologized? For what? For that cape and such. I was always pushing you to go further than you want to go. I'm worried that I might have ruined your time in school. He chose not to ask why she felt that way. Instead, his heart lit up with respect and awe for his incredible underclassmen. Aoko fully understood what sort of person Yoshitsune was. She knew that he felt more comfortable in a research lab than at the head of a crowd, yet she placed her trust in him and worked to bring out his potential. With everything that happened, it makes sense that she would feel guilty. However, no, you have not. He removed his cap from his head. Calmly, he looked straight at the girl who had captured his attention for 2 years. My time here was wonderful. I was blessed to have such amazing people around me. Knowledge isn't tied to a school, Yoshitsune thought. The real learning would start from now on, until he drew his final breath. He would treasure these 3 years for her life. They were a time when he had met people he would have missed if he had simply committed himself to books. High school was a special place for youths that would spend time with those wildly different from themselves. It was a truly invaluable experience. You still have 1 year left. I'm a little envious of Shizuki. What? Why are you bringing him up? I just wanted to have the last laugh. Now then, please look after yourself. Yoshitsune stepped onto the bus. The driver stepped on the clutch. Do your best out there, Mino. I'll come bother you when you get famous. The door shut tight. Aoko waved. The sunlight was already halfway up the building. The bus forged ahead into the warm morning glow, carrying the boy off to a country far, far away. Thus, the journey of first loves comes to a quiet end, having reached its destination safely. That was the end of Chapter 5. And there's Chapter 4.5 at the very end, which is only 1 page. Chapter 4.5. Let's rewind a bit. Shall we return? Tomorrow's the day before exam, so you'll have to study from hell waiting for you tonight. Oh, I don't know who's talking. Ritsuka Susei, the root of all evil, lay crumpled onto the floor after taking Aoko's blow. Oh, it's back at the church. Sister Yuika wasn't around, and Father Eri took care to take out Ritsuka's... Sorry. Father Eri took care to take out the Ritsuka-shaped trash, so Aoko and Sojiro were left alone together to return home. Do you know why she disguised herself as a man? She said herself that she thinks men's clothing looks cool. It's rugged, sharp, kind of wild. Different from women's clothing. So of course she'd want to try it. I can kind of understand where she's coming from. So all of that wasn't for work, but for her own enjoyment? The city really is hell on earth. The two of them reflected on the past few days as they climbed the slope. After Aoko told him the truth about her first love, Sojiro felt the weight of his chest finally leave him with a heavy sigh. He returned to his usual stoic, unreadable demeanor. By the way, Aoko said, why didn't you say something at the time? What time? When you were babbling about whether or not I had a boyfriend. You didn't tell me that you were helping Mino out. What's up with that? It's not like you. Oh, did that happen? Are you sure you just didn't imagine it, Aozaki? Sojiro deflected the question so naturally that Aoko doubted herself for a moment. His reasons to stay silent were twofold. 1. Yoshitsune had asked him to, and 2. He himself had been invested in Aoko's answer. He didn't like the idea of Yoshitsune's feelings being conveyed along with his own. Basically, he was just being petty. Never mind. More importantly, why help Mino out in the first place? Wasn't that the first time you two ever met? There wasn't anything in it for you. It just kinda turned out that way. But I felt more strongly about it after hearing what you had to say. Me? That makes even less sense. I mean, it's a big deal, isn't it? Sojiro responded sullenly, refusing to look at Aoko. Aoko stopped, mouth open in astonishment as she watched Sojiro charge on ahead. His cheeks puffed in frustration. What's that all about? She asked no one in particular. She never felt so stupefied in her life. And that is the last page of the Magician's Basic Tune. And the last part of Witch on the Holy Night. That was a lot longer than I expected, but it was really cute, and honestly I really enjoyed it. It was a lot more adorable than I had ever expected it. God damn it, Ritsuka. I love Ritsuka. I love how much she's willing to do just to have fun. I kind of wish we got to see more of Yuika. I would have liked it if Yuika and Ritsuka were part of the apprentices or disciples, but what Father Aries said makes sense because they're both part of the church. But that was just really, really funny and really enjoyable. But like that, every story has to come to a close, and that will be the end to this story. I really hope that there will be a sequel in the future. I have no idea whether or not that will ever happen, but I would definitely enjoy it. But yeah, that was just great. I have nothing but good things to say about the story. I know it was a little bit, what's the right word? Linear because there weren't any choices, but as a story being told, it was just great. And if you managed to make it here, feel free to critique my drawing, give me some advice. I kind of like drawing, but I do realize that I'm not that great at it. But yeah, I hope that you enjoyed your time here, following me through this beautiful story. And until next time, I'll be playing a brand new different game. Don't know what it'll be so far, but we'll get there. But thank you for your time, and I hope you have a nice one. Peace.